Being Your Best You with Dr. Kyre.
I'm exceptional, thank you. How are you today?
I'm so good.
Blocks to bold, brass to gold, better to best. We all get caught in mental mazes, believing that we have to live the way others see us, or being taught to think things through. Dr. Kyre is an agent of change using GeoTran human programming and activations to quickly and easily release people from the automatic patterns and inner glitches that block their healthy, wealthy, happy life. Instead of going where our innate circuitry takes us. Being in alignment with you is the best way to create your best life. Are you ready to be your best self? Being Your Best You with Dr. Kyre. Welcome to the show.
Hello, there's Dr. Kyre again. And I am having an exceptional day, and I hope that you are also. Now, today this is going to be aired, is my birthday. Hooray! And it's one of those double-digit ones, so that's always very exciting. And today I am going to be self-indulgent, and I'm going to talk to you about what lights me up. And what lights me up is GeoTran. Now, as you'll have gathered by now, if you've been watching this program, I am a specialist in helping people past their midlife crisis through a pivot in their lives, and always with the aim of you being the best you that you can be. And the main tool that I use for this is GeoTran. Now, GeoTran stands for geometrical transformation. And it's a technique that was created by Dorothy Espio, starting back in about 1985. I came across her in 1997, and I was just so fascinated by what she was doing that I stayed in her town and worked in her office for 3 years. And the biggest perk of my job was that I got to go to every class that she was teaching for free. So I did. Class. But people constantly ask me, very naturally, what the heck is this GeoTran stuff that you keep talking about? And that is what I'm going to tell you about today. So, a little bit of background. I grew up in the States. I lived in Britain for 20 years. I trained as an architect. Came back to the States in 92. Spent 4 or 5 years working as an architect and also as a sort of writer and editor and do other things I was doing, and realized that actually I was not enjoying myself. You might say I was not being the best me that I could be. I was just bored. 90% of my time I was on the computer. Hey, nothing wrong with computers. I love computers. I grew up in a family of computer programmers. But that's not what I spent 6 years training to do in architecture school. It's not exciting to me. It doesn't ignite my passions the way that design does, for instance. And yet, I was surrounded by these passionate architects. I realized that it was something I could do, not something I had to do. It did not call out my innate genius. And I didn't know what my innate genius was, so that kind of made it a little challenging. Anyway, I looked at all these other architects and I thought, I'll bet there's something I could be that passionate about, and I'm going to go find it. I sublet my apartment. I hopped in my car. I went on this road trip. By then, I had had 20 years in England and 5 years in Vermont. So 25 years of cold and precipitation. I was done. I thought, I'm going to go south and west, see if I can find some sun. So I did. Ended up in Arizona. And I met Dorothy Espio at a business meeting of all things. And we took a little bit of shine to each other. In retrospect, I'm really surprised because personality-wise, we are very, very divergent. However, as we were talking, I was asking about what she did and so on. And she said, oh, I'm going to actually give a demonstration of what I do next week on Tuesday. So come along if you feel like it. So I did. And it was absolutely riveting. There were about 15 people in the room. She had somebody up in front of the room, and she was using muscle testing to show us how this person's inner computers were, I was going to say controlling. Controlling is a little too rigid. More like governing, more like setting a cap on what this gal could do and be and have. And the whole point was to free up what her inner computers were governing so that she could have more choices. GeoTran is all about choice. So she was showing us, firstly, a certain kind of limit. And it's, in fact, that I do the same thing with the demonstrations that I give, which is she kept handing this gal money and seeing how quickly she switched off using muscle testing. See, everybody has a basic limit determined by your inner computers that tells you how much you can receive in a given month. And if you go beyond that limit, which is normally smaller than you'd think, then you're going to have accidents, you're going to have health problems, you're going to have something that is going to soak up that extra cash. Well, I'd just come out of however many years as an ill-paid architect, and before that as a grad student. I thought, oh, this is really interesting. And then Dorothy said something that really, really struck me. She says, if you're not making as much money as you'd like, if you keep having the same relationships over and over again, but with different people, if you have family issues, if you just aren't having a happy, flowing life of ease and grace, these are programming issues. I grew up in a family of computer programmers. You say programming issues to me, and I go, that means we can fix them. We just need to know the coding language. And what Dorothy had invented, created, heard, channeled, whatever the word is you want, what had come to her to fix her own health problems, her own dyslexia, was this coding language, GeoTran. GeoTran taps into the energy field to change the programs and the circuitry and the wiring and all the things you think of as computers as having in you. Now, why is this beneficial? What does this do for you? Okay, perfect example. Let's say your laptop, I'm sitting here in front of a laptop, and let's say your laptop is not working. And you may know how to use your laptop. You may be able to do email and word processing, and on a good day, Excel spreadsheets. On a very, very good day, a graphics program. Okay, but you probably don't know how a computer actually works. I mean, most of us don't, right? Even people like me who grew up in computer-driven families. Okay, so you go find your oldest grandchild or the nearest 19-year-old, and they come in and say, go, and it works again. Or it works faster, or it works more cleanly, or whatever it is the problem was. Now you know that you could learn to do that. I mean, most people know that they could learn to fix their own car, but they don't care to. It's just not interesting to them. And most people could fix their own computers, but who's got the time? And most of us don't have the interest. Well, I'm that 19-year-old. And I can go in and I can fix your inner computers. And what happens then? That's where the magic comes in. One of our great science fiction writers, whose name escapes me just at the moment, said that any sufficiently advanced technology is going to look like magic. Well, GeoTran is like that. So by using the GeoTran coding language, which is points, numbers, and geometries, I can go in there and fix your computers. What happens when your computers are not working? Imagine that your actual electronic computer has a computer virus. There are basically three outcomes. You end up running a program you don't want to run. Two, if you have a strong immune system, you can possibly get around it. But it's still going to take up system resources. You're still going to run more slowly. Your frequency and vibration is going to get lower and lower and lower and lower until possibility number three, your computer crashes. And that's where we find mystery illnesses and other health problems, or loss, lack, poverty, failure, depression, you name it. These are never programs that are meant to be running in your computer. Your computer has to be seriously slowed down for this type of program to take hold. Because I guarantee you, every human being on this planet has a divine blueprint. And that divine blueprint never, ever demands that you should be sick or unhappy or poor. It just doesn't. That's not how spirit works. Spirit, and I'm not talking about religion here, spirit always wants us to have a happy, healthy life that's beneficial for us. It is, before you come into this physical body, you have made an agreement with you and with spirit that says, okay, this time around we're going to, yeah. So the analogy that people use, and I think it's quite reasonable, is you're part of a theatrical troupe. And you're saying, oh, okay, this time around for this play, for this performance, I'm going to be the daughter and you can be the father. Or I'm going to be a rich person and experience what that's like. Or I'm going to be a poor person, experience what that's like. Yeah. So we're kind of, in order to be well-rounded spirits, we are developing our muscles through different sorts of experiences. And I have been told, and I have no reason to doubt this, that that's one of the interesting things about living in a body and living on this planet at this time. That's a whole other discussion, which maybe we'll have at a whole other time. My point here, and I do have one, is that if we can get your computers, your inner computers, working properly on a technical level, then you have so many more choices about how to live your life, how to create a happy life, how to create a life that really goes with your brain rather than against your brain. So what I hope you're asking now is, okay, I get the picture. So tell me more. At least I hope you're saying that if you haven't switched off. Hooray! So if I could have a look at the point-up pyramid, I'm just speaking to my producer here. If I could have the point-up pyramid when you have a second. This is how the human system works. Thank you so much. So, point-up pyramid. You actually got 72 of these, but that's a whole other different question. Now, in terms of the frequency or vibration that you are experiencing, that you're living, that you're creating, that you're aligning with at any given moment, the bottom bit creates or attracts or is attracted to your physical life. So how you live, where you live, who you live with, what kind of work you do, how much money you can make. All of those actually physical or sensory experiences are there in the physical realm. Yeah, it takes the atoms, the energy quanta. It means they have to slow down enough for us to perceive them in the physical or the sensory realms. You see? And now the top bitty, that's your spirit. Okay, now the spirit is the part that is eternal and that runs laughing through the energy fields, that is detached from the physical. And I don't mean detached in a negative sense. I mean detached in the sense of mastery, because mastery is all about detachment. Detachment does not say, um, well, let's say what it does say. Detachment says, I would prefer this, but if this opposite thing happens, I can deal. Yeah, that's detachment. And most of us are attached all the time. Oh, my word, we are so attached to our political opinions and our cultural assumptions and even, just physical and social conditions. Like, I don't know how, for instance, men respond to things because I'm a woman. Obviously, I know I can see by observation, but I'm not going to know it in that really internal gut level way. What I am going to know, what I'm going to act out of default, are the programs and the patterns and the beliefs and the structures that exist in that soul level. So we have physical at the bottom, in the middle we have that soul level, and at the top we have the spirit. Now the spirit is able to listen in the field. The spirit is able to be inspired. Yeah? And the way we're set up, that spirit should be telling you how to operate the soul level. Now, the soul level is your psyche. It's the psychology. It's what you think, feel, believe, and desire. Right? Now, what's going on at the soul level, consciously or unconsciously, for the most part, unconsciously, will then dictate or govern what you're experiencing at the physical. So when I said to you, oh, well, your computers have this governing function, and they're going to tell you, for example, how much money you can receive in a given month. Yeah. Most people, as you saw from the diagram, most people's soul level are totally stuffed and crammed and stuck with toxic beliefs, experiences, traumas, pain, blah, 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 blah. Things from the past, things from the future. So when we wonder, well, I have sorted out my beliefs that I can be prosperous, just for the sake of discussion. Why am I not? Well, that's because you've got something else going on in the soul level that contradicts that, or that is in tension with your conscious belief that you can, for example, receive more money. And that's the thing. People who've done research in this area are pretty much in agreement that 90% of what's going on inside is in the unconscious or the subconscious. I was talking to our hypnotherapy friend, Dr. Kevin Richardson, about this, and he was saying he was always been told, or he's been taught, that when we sleep, we are automatically in the subconscious. Whenever we do anything on autopilot, we're automatically in the subconscious. In a sense, we are hypnotizing ourselves. And the example that he gave was that, let's say you've driven from your house to your place of work and you don't even remember the journey. Well, that's basically because you've gone into the subconscious. The subconscious knows how to do that automatically. We don't have to tell ourselves how to breathe or how the heart pumps or any of those things. Those are all happening on the subconscious level. And that subconscious is 90% of what's going on. So that means 10%, give or take, is going on consciously. Well, 10% conscious, 90% unconscious. Which do you think is going to weigh more heavily in the balance? Clunk. It's going to be your subconscious. It's going to be your unconscious, of course, obviously. So, although I have a high respect for coaches and therapists and all those lovely people, and I know that they can be very, very helpful, what I also know is that unless they're going into the subconscious to change things, the pace of change is going to be very slow. Whereas what I know about GeoTran is, because we're working directly in those biocomputers, the pace of change can be very fast and sustainable. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm an impatient kind of person. I freely admit it. So if I can have a quick though sustainable change. I'm going to take that anytime over a slow growth change. And there are two more reasons why this is really super beneficial. One is that the only place you can change, the only place you can make new choices is in the now. And most people spend most of their time not in the now. I got to tell you, they really do. So we're always sort of rerunning some pain, some trauma from the past, and then projecting that into the future. Have you ever noticed that when you have an argument with someone, even somebody you care about a great deal? They'll say or do blah, 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 and you'll go, oh my God, I have heard this so many times before. Obviously, this person is going to repeat this pattern, and I'm already pissed off in the future, that, or afraid, or whatever the pattern may happen to be. Yeah. Now, if we can get you into the now, then we have a much better chance of you being you. And if we can get you to be you in the now, that's where you can make some real choices. Now, my experience, and I've been doing this now for 26 years, my experience is that 80% of what I clear from people is from other people, other persons, places, or things. So just take a minute and think about this. What do you do that's similar to the way your mother does it? Similar to the way your father does it? The way your father handles money? The way your mother deals with relationships? Are you aligning with that because that's what you've been taught? Are you resisting that because you're wanting to make a different choice? Either way, you're still hooked into toxic beliefs and experiences. Or they may not even be that toxic. They may work for the other person. And when I say person, I also mean places and things. I mean, your corporate culture could be having this kind of impact on you. Just the fact that as women, if you work in corporate, you feel like you have to wear a suit and high heels and makeup and earrings. You know, I mean, nobody's saying that really. That's not something you're really choosing. It's you're conforming to some cultural and social expectations. And hey, it's not that they're necessarily bad, but they may not be you. And when you keep trying to do something that's not you, that doesn't engage your genius and your purpose, then you are not what you're doing here on the planet to do. Yeah, in the great circle of life, we all have a very specific task to do or be or have. It's not necessarily a doing thing. Sometimes it's just a being thing. It's a certain sort of person that you're supposed to be. And if you're trapped in the box of somebody else's expectations, then you're not being you, right? And that brings me to the second point. If I could have the 2 pyramid graphic, that would be lovely. And I'll show you the other part of this and why it's so important to be you and so important to be in the now with clear pyramids, with clear triangles. Thank you so much. Okay, so you saw that one I showed you, or that is to say that our lovely producer Angie showed you earlier. The point up one, physical, soul, spirit. Okay, now, what's also going on is at the same time, you have a point down pyramid, as you're seeing in the graphic, okay? This is your God self, and everybody's got one. And it's not a question of religion, okay? I know it says here, Jesus Christ is the relay, and that is the point if you are a Christian, but you can use that relay, that anointed energy, whether you are a Christian or not, okay? So if that triggers you for some reason, just let it go and really hear what I'm saying here. Everybody's got this God self part, okay? Now, the God physical has 6 components, including the immortal soul, the wilderness, your divine spark, your mighty I am presence, your holy of holies, and your God particle. And each of these can be off in some way, or it can be back in alignment. Then there's the God soul, which is the higher version of your heart and mind and will, and it also includes the favor of God. And then, of course, at the pointy bit, pointing at your spirit, is the God Spirit or the Holy Spirit, Holy Ghost, Holy Spirit promise, Holy Ghost promise, within a certain theological container. Now, the way we're designed, as I have been taught, and I truly believe to be the case, is that we get this inspiration from the God physical, and it filters down through the God soul and the Holy Spirit, and it makes that jump to your spirit, and then into your psychology, and then into your physical realm. So spirit wishes to bless us. And if we're not being blessed, it's usually because the block is in us. Right? Now, you can only, let me back up. So when you are 100% in alignment with you and 100% alignment with your God self, then these two pyramids slide together, and that creates the Star of David. Right? That's what the symbolism of the Star of David is. It says you're walking around with God in you and God, and you are doing whatever it is you are here to do. And it's going to be unique for each person. Okay? You can only do that when you're 100% you, and you can only do that when you're in the now. So we've got two issues here. Right? Are you 100% you? And if you're not, where's the assimilation, contamination, possession coming from? Because 80% of the time it's not you. So you can clear all that out, yay, but you've also got to be in the now, because the now is the only time when you have the choices. Oh, fantastic question. How do you find yourself? Oh, I love that, because that's really what I work with people to do. I have no particular desire or expectation for you, the listener, to be what I need, want, or prefer you to be. I don't care. That's something I'm totally detached about. You can be whatever the heck you want. What I am interested in doing is helping you be you, find you. Okay, so how do you know when you found you? Great question. My experience is that, there are two ways of approaching that question, as always. Okay, one is we can muscle test and find out what percent are you right now. I mean, typically most people walking around between 40 and 60% who they're designed to be. And we can check this with muscle testing. But I think what's more germane to the question is, how do I know it when I see it? It's a feeling thing. Now, this is something that I have spent a lot of time learning to do, because I actually went into GeoTran with that desire. I want to find out what I'm passionate about. I want to find out what I'm here for. What's my genius? What's my purpose here? In fact, I was saying I didn't have the words then. What is my divine blueprint, and how can I be in alignment with it? Yeah, because things bound to go better when you're in alignment with your own divine blueprint, obviously. My experience is that when I could reach that place, it was a combination of feeling surprised, but also grounded. It's like, I would not have expected that, and yet it feels right. Now, here's the point where, in the little intro video, I talk about people getting lost in a mental maze. We are very much a left brain culture, right? And left brain culture places tremendous emphasis on being rational, on being logical. It's basically saying, look, there's one way to do whatever. It's one way to take out the rubbish bins. And if you don't do it that one way, you're wrong. And that one way is a step by step by step by step. This is very, very left-brained, right? And I know about this because I was supremely left-brained until I came across GeoTran. And the main thing we do in GeoTran, or maybe I should say the starting point of GeoTran, is to make sure that you can communicate across the midline so that both left brain and right brain are working, and they are working together. Right? Because Dorothy was very dyslexic. This is one of the reasons that she found herself developing this. And she really, really wanted to work with kids and make sure that they were not broken before they went to school and got broken, if you see what I mean. Now, the right brain is more creative. It's more big picture. Well, it's very big picture, right? So the left brain is great for detail stuff. And so I was, terrific. I would do all Dorothy's computer work, for instance. But she was really right brain. So she was the one having the original ideas, right? In this big picture sense. And she always said that spirit is very right brain. Now, as humans, we have two sides of the brain, and we're meant to use them both. But most people are dyslexic for something. Now, when we say dyslexic these days, we always seem to mean numbers or writing or reading. And those are the main points that dyslexia shows up. But you can be dyslexic for anything. All that dyslexia means is that it's unable to cross the midline, side to side, top to bottom, or front to back. Let me give you an example of what is not normally considered dyslexia. I am sure you've watched a John Wayne film sometime or other, maybe in the dim and distant past. Think of the way John Wayne walks. He does not cross the midline. When most people walk, we have right hand forward with left foot, and of course the reverse. John Wayne has the whole body, or half the body, together. Right? Now, if it's just affecting John Wayne, that's one thing. Okay? That's okay. That's okay. The problem is, I know this is going to sound really odd. The problem is that dyslexia is contagious. So, think about a second grade teacher teaching a class how to write. So she's maybe writing something on the board, and the kids are writing it down, and then she takes homework or essays or whatever back to look at them, and probably 10% of the kids are switched off for writing. So she gets switched off for writing. And then, and then she goes back in the next day and she switches off everybody else. So now everybody's switched off. Oh, joy. Well, this is what people do to each other accidentally, unconsciously, all the time. We are forever being affected by the people that we spend the most time with, or the books that we read, or the television that we watch, or the radio that we listen to, or the society that we're part of. Now, we are, all of us, transmitting and receiving like a radio all the time. That's why it's so important who you spend your time with, and I don't just mean in the physical. No? Because that's what I find when I'm working with people. I was talking with somebody the other day, and she was telling me a story about something that had happened when her daughter, who's now 30-something, was 15. And that her daughter's reaction did not make sense to her. What we did was we tracked it back to when her daughter was born. No blame. Just looking for what switched the inner computers on or off or in a different direction. And therefore we were able to clear it. See, that's the point. There's not really a lot of help, a lot of gain by just knowing what the problem is. Of course, it's a good first step. Yeah. Admitting the problem, as they say. Yeah. But if we can't fix it, then we're just as stuck as when we didn't know what it was. But this is what I love about GeoTran. is we can, it's like going into those circuits and saying, no, we're going to switch that over to that. Oh, nope, that's not you. We're going to throw that one out. Yep. Well, let me give you an example. Okay, I'm still on the living from your past thing from other people. So let me give you a story. I had a client about 20 years ago when I was still living in California. And he came to me because he had this nameless dread. I mean, he would just be overwhelmed with terror, and he could not seem to relate it to anything actually going on in his life. So I said, okay, let's have a go. We tracked it back to when he was 6 years old. Now, how did I know this? I was using my muscle testing. The very first question I ask after what percent are you? The very first question is, for such and such an issue that I'm hearing in the field, firstly, is that the issue? Yes. Is this your issue or somebody else's issue? As I said, 80% of the time it's somebody else's issue. And when did you pick this up? Right? And so he was 6 years old. I asked, is it this person's issue or somebody else's issue? Somebody else's issue. Male or female? Female. Okay. Mother. Turned out to be his mother. It's not always the mother, of course. Just in this particular case. So I asked him, what was going on for you when you were 6 years old that involved your mother? Or what was going on for your mother when you were 6 years old? Because chances are it didn't have anything to do with him at all. But when you're less than 10 years old, when the subconscious is still in full control of what's going on, then you think everything has to do with you, right? So you want to be super careful, for example, what you say around your young children. Let's say you have an argument with your spouse. If your child overhears what's going on, they're going to think it's about them. Yeah? Especially if you're being, angry or insulting to each other. So watch it. Anyway, I digress. So I said to him, what happened when you were 6 years old? What happened to your mom when you were 6 years old? He says, well, I was born in Hungary. And the year I was 6 was the end of the Second World War. And my mother and myself and our entire village were hiding out in a culvert because we were being bombed by the Allies. Ha! 6 years old, under attack, terror, absolute terror coming from his mother. Is it beginning to make some kind of sense? He picked it up from his mother and from everybody else who was very naturally terrified. And once we got a file like that in our hard drive, it likes to rerun itself. It thinks it's doing something beneficial for you. And it's not necessarily going to, in the case of this fellow, put him under airplanes being bombed, God forbid. But the effect, the terror, was resurfacing. And he very naturally could not figure out what was causing that. Because, he's had this perfectly nice life in California. Why would he be feeling this terror? We went back in his imagination. Now here's a point you have to really understand. Your system cannot tell the difference between an experience, a memory, a fantasy, a dream, or your imagination or your intention. It cannot tell the difference. We went back, we took him back to being 6 years old. We reminded him not about him, and we changed the circumstances, at least in his memory and his imagination, so that he was not being bombed and that his mother was not terrified. And he never felt that dread and terror ever again. It was a permanent clearing. You see why I love this stuff? Dorothy used to say, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. So whatever went on for you, we can clear it so that you can be a grown-up. Ooh, great question. How do I deal with negative relatives? Well, the first line of defense is to avoid them. I've always found that 4 to 6,000 miles away is good, safe distance. You know, I mean, I have one sister who lives in England and brother who lives in Ukraine, and my parents have never lived closer than 1,000 miles to me since I came back to the U.S. But having said that, I know that's not possible for all people. So here's what I suggest and what I work with people to develop. I work with you to develop good boundaries. Now, what does that mean? Because I work with empaths a lot, and the whole definition of an empath is they have no boundaries, bless them. Yeah, so they feel the things around them as if they were happening to them. That's not necessarily what this questioner is asking, but it is related. The more you know who you are, the more you love you, the more you are willing to care for yourself, the easier it is to see where you stop and the other person stops. That in itself is going to help. That allows you to be detached. Let's say hypothetically, you're at Thanksgiving dinner and you have, appalling Uncle Ed or whomever, right? Now, if you know who you are, you know that it's not about you. So whatever outrageous things are being said or done, it's not about you. And that allows you to be detached. That allows you much better range of options for how you're going to respond, or even if you're going to respond. Chances are responding is not going to help particularly. Now, another thing that we can do is I was going to say desensitize you, but that's not really the right word. That makes it sound like we're deadening your response, and that's not what I mean. But you can be allergic to or dyslexic to, they're very similar concepts. You can be reactive to all kinds of things. You can even be reactive to positive stuff, right? And we have the world's fastest allergy clearing. It's just remarkable. Yeah? So in like a minute, okay. In a hard case, maybe 5 minutes. We can use GeoTran to release you from your reactivity. So let's say you normally react badly, by some definition of badly, to obstreperous Uncle Ed. Well, what if we could neutralize that reactivity? So when Uncle Ed goes into whatever it is he does, you can just be there not responding. It all depends on the situation, but believe me, there are ways to back you off from the negativity. That also is a very good question. I change me and not them. Pretty much that is the only thing you can do, because we really can't change other people. For example, I quite often, I'm working with people and they'll say, "Oh, could you change my mother, or more likely my mother-in-law, so that she doesn't do whatever it is that's upsetting them?" And I said, "No, I basically can't, because it's a violation. I won't even look in somebody's field unless they've given me permission. I won't work on people unless I have permission, because it's a violation, even if my intentions are good." But what you can do is to love yourself enough to be detached, to make some better choices in the arena that you can control. And that's pretty much your response to whatever. And if you find that you can't, or you are unwilling to, which I would completely understand in some circumstances, then you get to walk away. That's what I started out by saying. Sometimes the best thing to do is just to avoid the negative relations, and if you can't do that, you can at least limit the time. And another thing I strongly recommend is learn how to throw people out of your field. So let's take this hypothetical Thanksgiving again. When you leave your parents' house or wherever it is, You leave that energy behind you. You do not take it home, obsess about it, stay up at night going, yeah. You make the choice that you're going to be you in the now, reclaiming, restoring the bliss and elation that is part of your divine blueprint. You always have a choice of how to respond. And trust me, I find it really challenging sometimes too. And I do have the kind of mind that goes over things at 2 a.m, but maybe less now than 20 years ago. And I can certainly teach you some great techniques for staying in the now. Even, the things I say to clients all the time is, it's not about you and it's not happening now. You don't have to carry Uncle Ed home with you. You really don't. Which brings me on to another huge, huge topic, which is forgiveness. Right? I have a lot of clients in the, I'm not sure if New Age is exactly the word to describe it, but in the woo-woo sector, for lack of a better word. And quite frequently I ask, well, what if I have some karma around this? I say, now here's what I have to say about karma. Firstly, Dorothy and myself as part of Dorothy's group, we cleared all karma off the planet 20 years ago. So if you're still running karma, it's on some level, it's a choice, probably a subconscious choice. So stop it. Secondly, karma basically says, because this happened over here in the past, in a past life or a parallel life, or however you want to look at those things. I don't really have an opinion about it myself. Over here in this other dimension, such and such happened. And as a result, you feel obliged to make up for it, or to suffer for it, or to do something that is not in choice for you now. Okay? So the first thing you do is you get back into the now. And at the same time, you get back into being you. And you forgive them. Forgiveness is our get out of jail free card. So think about it. Such and such happened over here. It's like, not good. Okay, I forgive myself for getting involved in that situation. I forgive everybody around me for whatever it is they did or how they responded. I forgive God, if that's what it takes, for apparently abandoning me there or not supporting me or whatever it is, right? Then you don't have something to react to here and now. That clears it. Forgive, 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 forgive. My very favorite spiritual writer, Edwene Gaines, that's Edwenegaines, Edwene Gaines. I don't have time right now, but I could tell you a remarkable story about how I came across her first book. In the 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity, which I strongly recommend, the first one is forgiveness. If you are in any kind of financial debt, I'm not talking about, using credit cards correctly or mortgage. I'm saying that in debt, real debt. Forgive, 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 forgives. Every day. See if you have put somebody outside your heart. How do you know when you've forgiven enough? Especially when it comes to former romantic partners, say, ex-husbands, that kind of thing. You know that you've forgiven them when you can think about them. If they should happen to come up, you're not going to spend time obsessing about this. Think about them and you only have neutral or positive feelings towards them. Understanding is a bit of a luxury. I mean, maybe you understand now whatever it was they were going through. Certainly you will understand yourself better. But basically, when you can look at them or think about them or run into them, it's like, you know what? I really hope you're doing well. Because you are no longer carrying that weight of unforgiveness. No weight. It lets you be in the now, and it lets you be you. And there is nothing more important than being you in the now. That is what restores you to choice. So let's do a couple of quick little GeoTran things just so I can show you how fast and effective this is, okay? All right. Let's start with being in the now. I actually did a little video about this just last week. There are a couple of ways that you could make sure that you're in the now, but the one that I like the best, because we're talking about GeoTran, is part of the mind jams, which are these 12 little exercises we do every day to make sure your wiring is working properly. Super easy. One hand on top of the head. If you have a center part, the fingertips, the flats of the fingers are going to go on that center part. Pretty easy, huh? There's nothing magical about this, except in the effects. And we just hold it there for like 12 seconds. Now, I now know how to feel the energy shifts. I didn't when I first started GeoTran, but I just felt it shift, so I'm going to put the other hand on top of my head. You want to stop an argument in its tracks? Do this. So that you're actually in the now, responding in the now, rather than all the times the other person has done this before and all the times they're going to do it in the future. Nope, just in the now. In the now. Let's deal with what's in the now. Perfect. Okay. Now, how about being that better you? Lots of coaches and therapists are going to tell you that a lot of this is about self-esteem. I was actually in a coaching group the other day, and they were talking about, it was weight loss. Yeah. And, a lot of us at our age are getting a little podgy around the middle, and it's not comfortable. It doesn't feel right. So they were talking about, this way of bringing up your self-esteem. And I said, hey, what you guys need is some GeoTran. So watch this. All right. If anybody watching me were to touch this point here, it's on the midline between the breasts, right? There. Okay. I guarantee you'd be off. Guarantee you. And I could, using muscle testing, very quickly and easily hear what percent you have self-worth, self-esteem, self-value. Okay. And typically, it varies a lot. Okay. But here's what you do. Okay. And by the way, all of this is copyright material, Dorothy SBO, GeoTran International, all that good stuff. Okay. Here's what you do. I'm just going to tilt my camera so you can see better. You take your right hand clockwise. Okay. So if you're at the top at 12, you're going to go round to the left and down around the bottom and up on the right and up to the top, clockwise. It's all in the wrist action. Okay, clockwise, and you're going to say 4-2. That's it. Now, if I were to test that point, we'd be on. And if it wasn't at 100%, we'd just do it again. See, we've just gone into the field. We've reset that point. That self-esteem point. Same thing with success. I'm just going to show you another point here. Yeah, right here at the solar plexus, right? Guarantee you, if I were to check anybody listening at the moment, 99% of you, that point would be off. There would be less life force energy flowing through your circuits. Right? Again, right hand clockwise, over that point, over the solar plexus, 2-2. Now you touch the point as a post test, and it's strong. Or a verbal post test would be, I choose to succeed. Now, wouldn't it be just fabulous if you started out your day with that? With self-love, self-esteem, self-worth, with choosing to succeed, with choosing to be fully alive, with choosing to be you. It's exactly like opening up your computer, and you know that computer is going to run a series of little diagnostics so that it runs properly. And if it doesn't, then the computer itself will say, you got something going on over here. That's what I do. That's what I do with people, both in groups and in person. Oh, and by the way, I just put together a 12-week course to teach you like the basics of getting back to being you and getting back to being in the now with a special emphasis on prosperity, on your ability to receive. I mean, to me, this is like going full circle because that very first time that I ever saw Dorothy Espio, she was working exactly on that. She was working on the ability to succeed. And in GeoTran, we actually have codes, points and codes to switch on your ability to receive, to be prosperous, to be abundant. They're called the wealth codes. And I've also devised some activations of my own technique, specifically to switch on your ability to make money, receive money, spend money, tithe on money, all the things that you can do with money. Save money, give it away, give it to charity, whatever it is. Because part of my job on this planet, I only realized this the other day, part of my job on this planet is to get the ocean liner, the Titanic, that is the human race, heading for this iceberg called belief in not enough, to redirect it. What would look different in society if we all had enough and knew that we had enough? If we were not subject to this belief, this disease, belief in not enough. I mean, think about it. If there was actually enough, and it was properly distributed, of course, then there wouldn't be greed because you have enough. And there wouldn't be avarice because you have enough. And there wouldn't be chaos because there is enough. And there wouldn't be wars based on stealing other people's assets because there's enough. So that's where I start with people. Get you back to being you, get you back to the now, and tune up your ability to have enough. Now, does that not sound fun? I mean, I think it's fun. I get to bring in intelligence, which is truth and light. I get to bring in validation because I see who you are and I can get you there. I mean, that's my job, walking you across that bridge into the promised land. Yeah? And it allows me to exercise my sense of humor, which in my earlier years I never had enough of. So, woohoo! So there it is, my friends. That's what GeoTran is about. That's why I'm saying my new tagline is GeoTran for the gold. It's like, let's get that Olympic torch up and running, and let's get us to being the best people we can be. Whatever we are designed to be, whatever you are designed to be, let's be the best. And let's use GeoTran to do it. Woo! Happy birthday to me. Thank you for watching. Bye. Thank you.